research. What was I researching?
I've forgotten. I've forgotten our last conversation.
Here's a question for you.
Okay.
What's the fastest speed you have ever traveled?
Well, who am I? Okay. Fastest speed in a motor car?
No. Not saying in anything. Just what's the fastest speed that you have traveled?
That's a difficult one. Because when you're traveling with your astral traveling or spiritual traveling, it just doesn't seem to be any limit. You just seem to be here and there immediately. And
exactly. Mm.
So it's
so the scientists tell us that the fastest speed you can travel in the physical domain is the speed of light.
Yeah.
But in the non-physical domain, which is the realm of energy, to access other dimensions, you have to travel, in effect, faster than the speed of light.
By what?
Faster than the speed of light.
Yeah. Okay. But I mean, yeah, humans can travel faster than the speed of light. I mean,
well, that's what I just said.
No, but I'm talking about in a jet aeroplane. Okay.
Well, why do you want to limit yourself to the physical domain? Because you know better than anyone, pointing, you know better than anyone that the physical domain is only a small part of who we are.
Yeah, yeah. What the reason I mentioned that though is that scientists are wrong. You can travel faster in the physical domain than the speed of light. Okay, so
can you?
Yes, you can. We've got
sure about that?
Yeah, jet aircraft that can travel at 10 years ago or more. They were traveling at the speed of light. Or was that the speed of sound?
Speed of sound.
Is it the speed of sound? Okay, yeah. Okay, I'm getting confused.
That's a bit slower.
Yeah, that's a bit slower. You're right. You're right. Anyway.
Huh. But it's an important issue, though, when you think about it, is because many, if not most, perhaps all human beings, when they're raised as young children, they're raised in the physical domain, which is limited by the 5 senses.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine what that world would be like if children were raised in the physical domain, but at a very early age, were also raised within the non-physical domain. Can you imagine what that would be like?
No, I couldn't imagine.
Mm.
Could you?
It's difficult to imagine. Be a wonderful possibility, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I think there are people that do try. I think of my oldest daughter who tries to bring up her daughter right from day one in a sort of spiritual life. And she goes to an unschooling school. And so, and she's now, 8, 9 years old. So I guess she's tried, and her and I have spoken about it over the years. And yeah, I don't know really what effect it'll have on her, because really you've got to wait till she's about 40 to be able to look back and look at her life and say, well, what influence did it have? Yeah, but at 8 years old, most little girls are beautiful and innocent, and so is she. Okay.
Mm.
So, yeah. So what makes you bring that up, that thought up? You've obviously been
Well,
reading something.
sort of a little bit based on what we talked about the other night there about mystical experiences and things like that, you know. So, you know, that if as our level of awareness increases outside of the physical domain, and in many respects it's just as simple as, well, in the first instance, just closing your eyes, isn't it? You know, it takes you into the realm of energy, you know, and then as you start to explore that, well, when I say you, as I have started to explore that, you know, you become more and more aware of how energy moves through your physical body, or perhaps more accurately through your energy centers, and the implications of that as you explore that, you know. So and then when you think about, you know, energy being a realm of infinite possibilities, when you think about how you might go about a planning process for yourself, you know, like we often talk about business planning and that, but when you go around a planning process which is beyond time and beyond space, rather than within the domain of time and space, you know, it's a very different planning process, isn't it?
Can't you only plan in the physical domain?
Oh, I don't think so. Not at all. No, don't think so.
So how would you go about planning, not using your physical mind?
Get yourself into, I guess, what scientists call is the unified field.
But then you're not thinking when you're in the unified field. So how can you think about planning?
No, you can still think in the unified field.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe so. I think so.
Okay. You've experienced it.
Well, in the sense that you can bring intention to it. So they say that where your attention goes, the energy flows. So you can bring attention to things. When you're in the unified field, you want for nothing and you're experiencing, you know, that unified experience with everything. You know, there is no you and no me, it's just one. And I suppose your inclination is, well, I don't need anything, I don't want for anything. But I still don't think it means that you can't bring intention to something.
Okay.
Being connected to the physical field as we are. Perhaps when we die and we lose that direct connection, perhaps, if that's the right word, with the physical domain, and, you know, exist in another dimension, you know, an energy dimension, then and, you know, I was thinking on the way home there tonight, driving the car, I was thinking maybe that's one of the things that makes humans so unique, is the fact that we are in the physical domain, but at the same time we're also in these other domains, although for many largely ignorant of it, but nevertheless it's there. It doesn't go away. It's just that the way you think and the way you present yourself to the energy field, you know, so maybe that's one of the things which is quite unique about being human. So perhaps some of these non-human entities like aliens, or however you want to call them, maybe they don't reside in this domain like we do, perhaps. I don't know, it's just a question to self, I guess. Perhaps it's an irrelevant question, but it's just a question to self, you know.
I don't think any question to oneself is irrelevant, or a question that comes up for oneself is definitely not irrelevant. Okay? It might be irrelevant for your next door neighbor, but not for you, an individual. When we closed off last, and when I don't know if you've seen, I uploaded our last conversation and I was filled with all sorts of questions about, and we brought it up in our conversation last time, and all these different terms or words, like energy and electric and biomagnetic, and so the list went on. And I sort of listed them under the video that I uploaded, because they were, and it's interesting because as I did research from Monday night through to now, there was always a linking back to the pineal gland, okay, which was your aha moment, and which I urge you not to leave, because I know you have left it, in fact, and you've gone off in another direction now, but somehow it always brought me back to the pineal gland, and that the energy, or the electricity, let's just call it energy, because you and I have always called it energy, okay? And a lot of those terms, like biomagnetic, are really bringing it more to the physical than to the inner domains of energy heading towards God. So I sort of came to the conclusion at a point, and I mean conclusion because I like to sort of bring things to some sort of finality, and that is that without the pineal gland, nothing what we're talking about now is possible.
Exactly.
And that for me was quite profound, because I thought, okay, so here we're contemplating, meditating, we're doing this, but if the pineal gland, and I'm using your term, which I actually quite like now, and I didn't like it at the beginning, so I apologize, I've just used it a lot, and that is activate, okay? And I see, yeah, does it automatically activate, as somewhere from the time we are born into as a physical baby through to now, we at this age, and does it turn itself on? And I guess it comes down to the word that you've already used, that it probably does, it probably is on, okay, but we're not aware of it. So therefore, by not being aware of it, obviously it doesn't exist because we're not aware of it, okay? And then the next thing is, once we become aware of it, we need to use intent, okay? So now we're aware of the pineal gland, we're aware of its immense connections to everything that's everything, okay? And we now create an intent, and maybe to move to that unified field in contemplation, or in meditation, or we want to do some spiritual traveling, but we have an intent now, okay? Not what the destination is going to be, because there's never a destination, there's never an outcome, there's never a goal. There's just an intent, okay? And the intent is to get the most out of the pineal gland that we possibly are created to do, to have, to experience. And so that was sort of my sort of aha moment from Monday night through to today's conversation. Yeah, so I'm still, as you can hear, lingering on to the intent being focused through the awareness of the powers of the pineal gland.
I think that's a really important point too, because a similar sort of thought process that I've been having is that what science tells us and what our own direct experience tells us is that the stimulation of the pineal gland, or the activation, whatever term we want to use, comes about from the higher frequencies. So the lower frequencies in our energy centers are the lower three energy centers. But as you move that energy up into the higher frequencies, so through the chest and the thorax and up into the head, the frequency becomes much shorter, the wavelength, the energy becomes much more intense. And it's that energy. So part of the spiritual process from moving from untruth to truth, or from non-awareness to awareness, is really about becoming aware of how energy moves through your body. And how do you do that? Well, it is through contemplative practices and other certain practices, like it might be chanting, it could be the types of food that you eat, the types of activity that you undertake or don't undertake, like viewing pornography or not. All of those things have an impact on your energy frequency, and it's about moving the energy frequency up, because as you move it up there and stimulate that gland, it opens up a whole new access to whole new dimensions, which you find very difficult to access if your energy frequency is of these lower, in the lower part of your physical body. So I think it's really important in that sense to continue to spend some time about, okay, well, how do I shift that energy frequency up? Because knowing full well that when that pineal is active and triggered, then there's a whole, well, potentially, I mean, we don't know, do we? But, or maybe we do. What do we talk about? 21 dimensions that are available beyond it, But that's the doorway, isn't it? I don't think there's any other way to access it except through there.
Except, you are saying except through there. You're saying except by not by focusing on your chakras and your energy that's coming into your chakras.
Yeah, and bringing that energy to a frequency where it activates or stimulates, or whatever term we want to put to it, opens the doorway that the pineal gland opens. It's the way I'm seeing it, it's the doorway to other dimensions.
Yeah, okay. So which does come first, the egg or the chicken?
Does it matter?
The egg has to come first, okay? Because without the egg hatching, you've got no chicken. And I know what you're not going to say, because I'm not going to allow you to say. So the egg hatches, and now all things start happening, and all the other. But I'm at the moment, and only between the last 36 hours or whatever it is, have I sort of got some other ideas about that the pineal gland being used before anything else can happen, okay? Before you can raise your consciousness, okay? That's what I'm saying, okay? And I'm not saying I believe that. It's clear. I'm thinking about it. It's the thoughts that have come to me now, because I have thought other ways. There were decades ago I was going through this and writing about the chakras and the chakras right above the body as well, and so forth. And but there wasn't any sort of like starting point.
You could be right, because maybe as the fetus develops and the spark of life comes into that fetus, maybe the doorway it comes through is through the pineal gland. Who knows? I mean, I don't know. I haven't researched. I haven't looked to see what the science says, but
Well,
maybe that's where the initial spark enters from.
yeah, I'm thinking in the last few hours that is the spark is the eternal energy, the spark that really comes from God and what his makeup is, and the energy that comes from that central point in eternity. And I believe that, well, what I know physically is that the first thing that develops is your nervous system. Okay, so now the nervous system is connected certainly to the pineal gland. Okay, and the pineal gland is directly connected to the nerves in what's going to be the brain and what eventually is the brain and stays connected. So you've got this mass almost control from the pineal gland in to the nervous, the brain, and every single other aspect of the physical body, including the chakras, because they have their flows as well through, and connection as well through not only their own systems, but through the nerves as well. So, yeah, I just need to spend more time on just thinking about what I jokingly said I didn't research. Okay, you should know me better than that, I guess. But yeah, I think maybe the pineal gland is the beginning and the ending. Okay.
Well, the beginning,
maybe,
the middle, and the end.
Yeah. And we have control over it somehow. Okay.
Well, see, the other element associated with this that I've been thinking about is this whole issue of time and space.
Yeah.
So in the physical domain, you know, our senses tell us about time and space, that I'm here and you're over there. And for me to get to there, it requires time, you know, to travel and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But as we get into the other dimensions, we go beyond time and beyond space. And you know, and I hasten to add, that's not a right or wrong thing or a good or a bad thing. It's just what it is. So as we go beyond time and we go beyond space, when we bring intention or attention to something, you know, for example, something that I might set as a goal or, you know, a possibility that I want to bring into this dimension over here, into this physical dimension, then when I'm formulating, or what words are really clumsy in this dimension, but when I'm, you know, formulating this idea or this concept or this aspiration or this goal or whatever it is, it's not something that has time and space attached to it. It's here right now. And that here right now is something that we transfer into the physical dimension. So it's not something, when we set a goal in the unified field, if I want to use that term, where there is no time and there is no space, then whatever I bring attention to and that goal or that aspiration or whatever, it's here. It's not something that's 2 weeks away, 2 years away, 20 years away. It's here right now. And I think that one of the wonderful things that we can learn, and I think the pineal gland is an important tool or component or aspect to any of that, is that if I make a goal or a plan in the physical dimension, it's not here now, it's always going to be, it's going to happen in 2 weeks, 2 days, 2 years, whenever. and I have to get there. So it's not here now. But if you turn that around and take yourself into these other dimensions, it's here right now. It's already happened because it's there. And I can see it and I can experience it, through our contemplative practices and so on. I won't use the term visualize, because visualize, I think, is a three-dimensional thing. If I visualize something in the physical domain, I tend to have almost like a photograph, a flat image, whereas in the other dimensions, it's all around me. It's more than three dimensions. It's something that's vivid and it's real and it's energetic. So it's already happened because it's a possibility that's been brought into creation. And as an awakened being, as we learn to use things like the pineal gland and how energy moves through our physical body and so on, we can bring that reality from those dimensions into this dimension. So we don't have to wait. We don't have to travel any distance. As we learn to do that, I hesitate to use the word believe, but the reality for me is that I think that's available to us. I think that's available to us. And if you follow on from the conversation that we had there the other night, we were talking about, I think I raised the issue about, that some of the ancient Buddhist scriptures, suggest that the Buddha could regenerate himself. Well, one of the characteristics of being in those dimensions beyond the physical dimensions is that the unified field, the perfection of God, it heals. So if there is a disease or a dis-ease or energy which isn't in harmony, the first thing it does is brings it back into harmony. And we call that healing. And that's why, some people say, oh, it's a miracle, I've accessed this dimension and this condition that I've had for the last 30 years, it's just disappeared. Yeah, because you've brought your energy levels into coherence.
Agree. I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you.
So how did I do that? Oh, well, there's this little P that sits up here, and if you're able to bring energy to a certain level, it enables you to access these dimensions. And when you're in those dimensions, it sees disease as something that needs to be reharmonized. Harmonizes the energy, because that's the nature of the unified field, is harmony and love and all these other words that we use to try and express some of these wonderful things. And that's what living and life is really about.
Living a life, that's what it's all about, you said. Okay, so you're saying that we need to live totally in the unified field, and not do anything in the physical, not plan anything in the physical.
Oh no, I think in the physical dimension, if we're coming from that unified field, we can be superhuman, we can be supernatural.
Okay, and not be natural.
Well, supernatural is still being natural. It's just natural at a different level.
Okay. So,
but having said that, I would at the same time, I would pose to you that I don't think disease is a natural thing.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I totally agree with you. All right. But then is the physical a natural thing?
Well, yeah, I think it is. Yeah. And I think that's part of the uniqueness that is presented to each and every one of us whilst we're in this physical domain, is to explore this dimension, but reverse the context. Explore this dimension from the unlimited dimensions, rather than explore the unlimited dimensions from this limited dimension. I think we've got it arse ways about. That's a technical term too, but I should.
Yeah, I guess it depends on, you know, what, and we brought this up for years, you know, what is the purpose of us landing up in this three-dimensional, lower frequency Earth plane? Okay.
Well, it seems to me the more I explore the non-physical dimensions, is that seems to be a gateway to perhaps dimensions that you can't necessarily access from some of the other non-physical dimensions. It seems to me that the wonderful opportunity that every single human being is presented with that walks this planet is that maybe they are very, maybe they're like a special royalty that has the possibility of accessing dimensions which aren't necessarily open to
Spiritual beings.
Yeah, to some other spiritual beings. Yeah.
Mm. Interesting thought, that one. Really interesting thought.
Might be very arrogant too, I don't know.
No, I think it's very thought-provoking what you've said.
Mm.
Definitely. Because, you know, there's only a finite number of people at any given time that can be on Earth. Okay, even between Earth creation and Armageddon, the end of Earth, it's still a very finite number of people.
Finite number, it is very finite, isn't it?
Yeah. So there is a privilege. I think there is a really something to be grateful that we, in order
and
to
even
human,
and even human history within the context of the history of the universe is just a blink of an eye, isn't it, really?
Yes, it is. And, you know, the universe that we perceive and see and travel to is the physical macrocosm, okay? And that now is just, you know, like an infinitesimal part of what is out there that is not physical. Okay?
Well, that's right. And the scientists are telling us today that the physical domain within the context of the universe, like matter, is tiny within the context of the entire universe.
That's what I'm saying as well.
Yeah. You know, like some of the analogies that I've heard, I don't know how accurate I am in this, but they say that if you look at it at the atomic level, so then say, for example, you made an electron the size of a pea, just for argument's sake, then the cloud in which that electron exists around the atom, if the electron is the size of a pea, you know, becomes the size of like 85,000 square miles.
Yeah.
You know, so the emptiness or the apparent emptiness of that space is vast compared to the physical matter, you know. So
yeah, it absolutely reminds me of I've written about nothingness, okay. And it's actually a word that I picked up from being part of Logos. Moya calls it, you know, absolute nothingness. But that is beyond, let's say, the 67th plane, okay, of not part of the macrocosm. But when I write about it and think about it, I do it like you've just done now. The example you've just given now, okay, is that you know, I can't quite recall, but it's the example that I've used in my writing. You've used a certain number of square miles, okay. I said to something, an electron, you know, traveling around the nucleus was about the same distance as from the sun to the earth, or the earth around the sun, okay. Now, you know, whether that was accurate at the time or is now even in trying to get my memory back around it. But then between the Earth and the Sun, okay, you know, on a, let's say, a straight path, like the electron and the nucleus, there's absolute nothingness. Okay, now that nothingness is filled with everything. Okay, all knowledge. Okay, all music, all sound, all color, all everything. Okay.
All time.
All time. Yes, yes. Okay. And there it is. It's within our body, and how many, you know, millions are in our body. Okay, of that. So it is absolutely a profound thought to think, okay, we are aware of that. Okay, how does that influence our wanting to find these other domains, the spiritual domains, as you say, that can only really be got to from the physical doorway. Okay. That is such an interesting thought. So I'm so pleased you brought it up. I think it's great. It, you know, just give me a few more years. Okay.
I don't think you need it. That's the thing. This morning when I was out walking Bella,
yeah,
it was a lovely clear morning. We've had a lot of cloud and showers and stuff every morning, but today it was lovely and clear.
Yeah.
And there's a new moon which is rising. I think tomorrow it rises actually.
Okay.
And I'm looking up at the new moon emerging, and I'm looking up at these stars, which all ironically are in a straight line underneath it. You know, and my first thought was, oh, I'm so privileged to be able to experience, you know, what's there in front of me. But then that quickly followed on the heels of that was another thought that, yet notwithstanding the moon that I can see there and these stars that I can see there, look at everything that's around it. Look at the nothingness that's around it.
Yeah.
And be incredibly grateful for that as well, because we tend to focus, which is our upbringing, on the physical.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all of the non-physical, which is staring us in the face, for many of us, we don't even see it.
Yeah. 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 Don't become aware of its importance, possibly. I mean, I'm not even sure what the importance of it is in my life, but I can accept that it's profound. Okay, because I suppose since quantum physics sort of really broke onto the world stage in our lifetime, and all not all that long ago, and it's given rise to lots of theories, okay, and lots of scientists playing lots of games, and but it's given people like you and I just an awareness of the possibilities of what is infinity. Okay,
exactly. Yeah.
What is something that really has no beginning and has no end, like the snake eating its tail?
Exactly, but and quite often I've seen people on like YouTube and those sort of things having these sort of philosophical debates about, well, what's on the other side of the edge of the universe?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, there's nothing there. Yeah,
No,
there must be something there. Yeah. What is it? What is it? What is it?
Yeah, I listened to one the other day. Yeah.
You know, and in many respects, it's irrelevant, because the other thing too, I guess, and this is the trap for thinkers like you and I, is we seek to understand. But you know, when I was standing there this morning gazing up at the sky, the pre-dawn sky, and I was sort of thinking to myself, well, you don't need to understand it. It's there. I'm here. Just experience it. Like,
yeah.
Just accept it and experience it. You know?
But coming back to that that YouTube debate, the answer to it is on the edge of whatever they perceive as the edge, is absolute nothingness. Okay? And that's what's on the edge. Okay. And that absolute nothingness is everythingness. Okay. But there's nothing. There's no anything that's been created is not there. You know, it's still maybe, you know, everything that was created evolves. Okay. So God was created, let's use that, and so God is evolving. Okay, so you get to the edge of whatever they perceive as the edge, and then there is this absolute nothing, the absolute blackness. Okay, that is potentially just needs to be evolved into. Okay, and it's waiting.
And that's a really important point that you make in my mind anyway, because, you know, lots of people have this sort of fear that comes to mind when they, like from a religion perspective, about, you know, that total nothing, even the absence of light, you know, because the religions always talk about light. But the core essence, if you want to say, of God is complete nothingness, completely nothing,
blackness. Okay, complete darkness. Yes.
Yeah.
And I agree.
Out of which everything arises and everything falls. You know.
Yeah. And we learn that in Logos as well. You see that, you know, Muntu came and emerged out of the nothingness. Okay. How the pendulums, you know, from one to the other in absolute nothingness. It's all symbolic, okay, and Logos, he's documented it, and he's told us, you know, in many lectures about it, and it just, you know, in my simple human logical mind, I can accept that. It seems to make sense to me what we're discussing now, okay. But it brings us back to the beginning of the conversation. Okay, so the pineal gland is for us now in this body of ours, which has the potential to evolve, okay, enormously, okay, while we're in the physical body, okay, so. Yeah, it's a whole new thinking process, definitely.
And so when you start to add some of those other mixes in, like the things that we've discussed, like when we introduced the concept of the soul and you know, the purpose of the spiritual journey and all of those things, it brings some amazing possibilities to the fore, doesn't it? You know?
Yeah, it does, but it sort of just a little aha moment as you said that for me was that's where our power lies, is between us, let's say our personality, and the soul. As soon as we lose that connection with the soul, which is our direct connection with all the powers of God, okay, not positive or negative, just neuter powers, okay, and then we go off in the other direction when we break that connection, when we consciously, or just say, well, we start loving money, or we start loving Satan, and you know, Satan is a religion. People see Satan as God, okay, and there are very consciously, there are people going around in collective that have no, you know, Satan is God, finished in class, okay. And
well, some of the early translations of the Bible suggest that Satan is you know, one of the highest angels.
Yeah, possibly he was Lucifer in as far as my concern, and he was the fallen angel, and you know, and that's why we get the Luciferic effect, and then we get Satan and Lucifer being synonymous, possibly. Okay, and I can accept that that was part of God's plan, okay, in order to create the physical environment, because you needed the two. You needed the positive and negative, you know, you needed the good and the evil, and you needed people to make choices in order to evolve in the way that you've described in this conversation, and evolve into other planes and experience planes that this door opens into. But we can only do that if we choose God over Satan in our day-to-day actions, okay, and our behavior in life.
Yeah, because those choices which we have the privilege of making will have a direct result in the energy frequency depending on the choice that we make.
Yes, and that's where it starts then, okay? Maybe that's where, you know, where the egg starts to hatch, is when you start making those decisions, and you constantly make, and you're aware of them, okay? And when you've made a wrong decision, you're aware of it and you can change that decision, okay? You know, if you go and buy a non-organic cabbage and oops, it should be an organic cabbage, okay, go and put it back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it operates at all of those levels.
Yes, it does.
And that's one thing that I think, you know, we've both learned over time, is that the spiritual path, the further down the path you travel, the more precise you need to become.
I agree with that, okay?
And it's the little things and the big things. It's not just the big things, it's the little things about which cabbage you pick up.
I totally, and I'm from experience in the last 2 weeks, Don, I've come to that conclusion. You know, for example, even today, okay, I know that wheat, any sort of wheat, okay, has an effect on my stomach, okay?
Well, I'd guess, hazard a guess that most of the wheat that's on the planet at the moment is probably genetically modified.
Well, I agree. So you've got that aspect. You've also got the aspect that is not organic, okay? And you've also got the aspect that gluten is a lectin that can damage your insides, okay? And yet I still went and picked up a hot cross bun that my wife had bought and put into the kitchen, and I couldn't resist it. The temptation was there. We talk about temptation. Put some butter on it, and I ate it. And wham, my stomach, it only took me 15 minutes probably. And I started feeling not lekker. And I've done it repeatedly in the last 2 weeks. Okay, little things, but coming back to the point that you know, you perhaps get more and more refined, and the consequences are immediate. Okay, so you become aware that you have made a wrong choice. Okay, so very, very, what you say is absolutely spot on. Okay, so as you do, I guess, rise in consciousness, or become more strategically aware. Yeah, that.
And that's why I think even when you look at some of the scriptures, like, you know, even Christianity, where it talks about, and I use this term somewhat hesitantly, but like, you know, the confession of your sins. Really, what that is within the context of this conversation here today is becoming immediately aware of poor decisions which have lowered your energy frequency, and doing something that is bringing awareness to those decisions to try and get that energy level straight back up to where you would prefer it to be.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what it's about. It's about bringing those energy levels to make sure that door stays open.
Yeah, and not lowering yourself consciously and being aware of it. You know? So it's not something you have to put on, and you are where you are, but you can go up or you can go down, or you can go this way, you can go that way.
And so when I think about, you know, like the stuff that was presented in the Alatra book, for example,
Yeah.
You know, most of that discussion was aimed at keeping your energy frequencies high.
Yeah. Well, making the choice of the soul, your
Yeah,
personality
yeah,
making the choice of the soul. Yeah.
yeah, and giving you a level of awareness and techniques and processes to look at those things which take you away from that.
Yeah. Yeah. Spot on. Absolutely.
As does yoga, as does, you know, like the pure strains of yoga. It's all about your energy and managing your energy and alignment and taking you into that unified field, you know. So,
Okay, but in that moment of doing yoga, you know, you then move out of that moment, out of your yoga uh, presence or class or contemplation, and you move into day-to-day life. Okay, and that's where it's actually got to happen, is in that day-to-day life.
well, that's right. I mean, Sadhguru talks about, you know, you take that with you into your day.
Mm.
You know, so, and that's what they talk about, like with the various types of, you know, they talk about meditation, but I think it's more likely a contemplation. You take those contemplative practices from, for example, sitting and what most people would term as meditating, accessing those energy levels, that as you stand up and walk into your day, you take that with you. You don't leave it behind, you take it with you into your day, you know. So, and there's certain things that you can do throughout the day to make sure, you know, that you are taking it with you, that you're operating from those frequencies and not the lower frequencies, you know. So,
But I think that that moment that you are confronted consciously with temptation, like I was today, and I failed. Okay. You know, those are the important moments. You know, it's not like, well, I'm intending to go into the world and be a good boy. Okay, that goes without being said. Okay, but it's when life got.
And I think, you know, based on where we're at and all that sort of stuff, I think it's also a bit of practice too, because I've been, well, and successfully, I must add, I've weaned myself down to basically 1 cup of coffee a day. You know, where it wasn't unusual for me, well, not even probably 6 months ago, where I could be drinking, you know, 6 cups of coffee a day.
Okay, you obviously have a perception that coffee is not good for you.
No, not necessarily not good for me, but I think what it was is that in terms of the importance of being hydrated and those sorts of things, you know, I felt that drinking, you know, Japanese green tea would be more beneficial to my physical condition than drinking 6 cups of coffee.
Okay, but it's a belief system that you have. Okay, and so you do it. Okay, I drink 1 cup of coffee, but not consciously. I didn't plan it that way. I just love a cup of filter coffee whenever, and during the day sometime. Okay, and I think of all the health benefits of coffee for me, and I'm pleased that I'm drinking that cup, because coffee is so healthy. Okay, and yeah, I wake up to green tea in the morning and maybe some lemon water as well, and then, you know, during the day it's mostly water. So, but I don't have a particular, with all the research I've done, there's so much goodness in so many things. Okay, and then it's eventually about what is right for the individual. Okay,
that's right. I think it's about bringing things into balance for yourself. You know, I mean, you know, exercise is good for you too, but running a 42-kilometer marathon every day, I would argue, would not necessarily be a good thing for you. You know,
well, running 1 kilometer would be a hell of an effort for me. I'm sure it would be good for me, but you know, I don't believe it's serious enough to do it.
Yeah, but then I think that's the thing, though. It's not about saying, well, you know, this is good for you, therefore have 10 cups of it. You know, you know, when you drink it in moderation or in balance, then it'll provide you with benefits. It's like having a hot cross bun. You know, one hot cross bun may bring you some enjoyment, but if you sat down and ate a dozen of them, then I'm sure it would. That
I
enjoyment
sat down and had one, and within 15 minutes, I had stomachache. I felt terrible. I felt tired, and I lay down for 10 minutes and managed to get rid of it. Okay.
But in that first 15 minutes, though, you're on a high.
Yes, with the sugar. Yeah. So yeah, you find out what is right for yourself through trial and error. Okay, and you can only fall temptation to something that you believe is temptation. Okay. So that's also another issue. Whereas,
so talk to me a little bit more about, in terms of the pineal gland, in terms of the next steps. Like what in the light of the conversation we've had tonight, what's on your mind about what we need to be thinking about or researching or talking about in the context of that pineal gland now?
Okay, I have no clue. Okay, I have no idea, but I research it and go with it. Go with the flow, because what will happen, and I know it will happen. All right, is that out of the blue, you know, something will appear in my research, and there it'll come, or somebody will send me an email, or somebody will send me a WhatsApp, or and maybe it's even a joke about something, and that will be the link. And the universe does that. Okay, it's and I think we've spoken a lot about this in the past. So I know, because I'm, you know, from a few conversations ago when you first brought up the pineal gland, and I told you in a previous conversation, I knew this had to move forward for me somehow. Okay, and it has. Okay, even between Monday and now, you know, just a day ago, it has meant something for me. And so, and this conversation has meant tremendous amount to me. So probably tonight still, when I upload this to rumble.com, I will listen to it again. Okay. And possibly by the time it's uploaded, and something will occur to me, and then I can answer the question that you asked, you know, but I can only tell you about it on Sunday.
No, that's good. That's good. That's fine.
Yeah.
And I'll do likewise. I'll just be open to receiving some more guidance on it, for sure.
Yeah, and we can communicate with each other too, and I might still, you know, do a couple of like really short videos. You know, one of my most popular classes on Get Set Up. Not one of them; it's the most popular class for me, for people attendance, is Instagram. Okay, now Instagram. I've always had a liking for Instagram. I've never really worked it at all, and I still haven't, okay, which I'm going to start doing now. But they have 3 types of videos you can make, okay. One is 15 seconds long, okay. One is 1 minute long. And then there is the 60-minute long one, okay, the hour-long one. And so what I'm going to probably do is for 15 seconds, see what I can say to the universe about the pineal gland, okay, and those 15-second ones, interestingly enough, are called stories, and they disappear after 24 hours off Instagram. Okay, you can, as an individual, you can save them somewhere else where nobody else can see them. You know, sort of. So, but I thought, you know, let me find out what 15 seconds is like in a video. And do you have Instagram on your? Anyway, check it out. Okay.
I will.
And then if I do a sort of 15-second one, then, you know, I'll send you the link on Instagram. And
okay. Yeah.
And if I do a minute one, And mainly because I need to be doing it because I'm teaching it. I need to get more experience on it in order to teach it. But the numbers are coming in big time. I almost have full classes every time I run the thing, okay? And they're new people, okay? A couple of repeats, but mostly are new people. So, you know, there's some sort of attraction going on there towards that account. And I think I'm the only one in Get Set Up that does Instagram at the moment. I'm not sure. I haven't actually done research to see if there is somebody else, but I'm not aware of somebody else. Okay, well, let's leave it there then. Okay.
Sounds wonderful.
And and this is going to, between now and the next time we communicate, is going to be an important time in our life. I just got that sense, Don. Okay.
So do you think that on Sunday you'll have big white wings protruding from your back or something like that, do you?
No, but you might. Cheers.
See you later.
Go well.
Bye now.
Bye.